Multiple billionaires are going all over the globe and giving the most bullish price predictions around. But are they going to be the ones that are accelerating this supply shock? It could be all part of the plan because we're going to have multiple billionaires now buying Bitcoin and their associated corporations. We're going to get into all of that. But first, let's get into what Chamath had to say and how he thinks that Bitcoin could be accelerating towards 500,000 to $1.1 million later this year.
There are a lot of countries that will never look at Bitcoin credibly, even if they support it. The US may be one of those, but there's an increasing body of countries that will become dual currency. And they will look at their local currency, and then they will look at Bitcoin. And they will say both of these two things are needed. One, when you're transacting on a daily basis for random goods and services. And two, when you need to buy a permanent asset that needs to have residual value, you'll use something like BTC.
So not only is Chamath saying like, hey, you know what? Multiple of these countries are going to start using this. They broke down in this video the full math and looking at the different cycles. Now you could see in this screenshot here that Chamath is pointing out two different scenarios. If they're looking at it by the last halving in cycle 3, well, it would be sitting at $500,000 in 18 months from the halving. That's in October, folks. And if we start to see a pump relatively close to what we're seeing here from cycles 2 and 3, well, we could potentially see up to $1.1 million. And the crazy thing is that Chamath wasn't the only one that's been giving bullish price predictions here lately. We've had multiple other billionaires, including Tim Draper, who had this to say.
The end of this year. But you go out 10 years, and the answer is infinity against the dollar, because there won't be a dollar. There won't be a need to have a dollar.
So look at that. Now he's saying all of this, and then we had $200 billion Binance CEO say sovereigns and rich people are now buying Bitcoin like they've never seen before. And he's a part of one of the largest exchanges. Then we also have this billionaire coming in as well from Gemini, the Winklevoss twins, saying this.
Into the above ground market price of gold, really it should be $1 million a coin easily, and then some. So
multiple billionaires are coming out and saying we should see Bitcoin get to $1 million of coin very, very quickly. But why are they saying this? And it's very interesting that these billionaires are kind of going towards Bitcoin, because I've been going over the potential of this supply shock here for quite some time. And I'm going to go into the breakdown of just how much wealth that the billionaires control and compare that to the overall whales right now, because they're flocking into Bitcoin very quickly, and this could contribute to that supply shock that I hinted at earlier. But the top 1% now owns 95% of humanity, owns more, excuse me. So over 1/3 of the biggest 50 biggest corporations are worth $13.3 trillion, now run by a billionaire or has a billionaire principal shareholder. The global South countries own just 31% of global wealth, despite there being 79% of the population. And there needs to be multilateral action for global framework on taxes and all of this other stuff that they're talking about. But I think this is the big kicker here. The top 1% own more wealth than 95%. Now, if you look at the Bitcoin distribution, and obviously this is all public, right? So we can go into how much and figure out how much each of all of these whales have. So it's estimated that the wallets with over 1,000 Bitcoin have about 3.5 to 4 million Bitcoin, which is just 16 to 19% of the overall supply. So the top 1% would go from owning 95% of the world's wealth to owning potentially 20% or less, because they don't have the time to buy all this up. Now, it seems like obviously we got Satoshi removing the coins, some dormant lost coins potential as well. The Grayscale Trust, some exchanges that they had an estimated 2.5 million BTC. We're going to get into how that's lower now, but it seems like billionaires are essentially trying to accelerate this because more billionaires are looking at how much money and how much Bitcoin that they should potentially be scooping up here and doing it in a very rapid pace. Like everything is just really accelerated and going quickly. And it seems like they're all kind of putting this, at an accelerated pace because we had that halving last year in 2024. And then now we're about, a little over 12 months past the halving. And we're going to start to see a lot of potential price predictions come out. A lot of these hedge fund managers are now looking at Bitcoin as an asset that they should be putting into their portfolios. I mean, we've got Steve Cohen coming out and saying not too long ago here, about a month ago, Steve Cohen and Ken Griffin saying that they should be buying. And it came out in their quarterly earnings that these two billionaire hedge fund managers are now loading up on Bitcoin. So it was always the question, should you be doing the same? And we've had, one of the top advisors here now saying, well, we should put 10 to 40% of your portfolio in crypto. Obviously, I advise you guys just to do Bitcoin and Bitcoin only, but this is bigger than any other portfolio recommendation that we've had in times past by a long shot. It hasn't even been close. We're starting to see these guys really start to wake up. I mean, it's like we're seeing that light bulb flicker in real time where we're starting to see now these billionaires, these hedge fund managers, all of these different things really start to look at, hey, you know what? This is a viable asset. This is something that we need to include in our portfolios, and we need to include ASAP because we're starting to see this and starting to see this as not, some pet rock, some fairy dust, whatever it is. We're starting to see this as the best performing asset of the past 15 years, and we need to start paying attention. It's the reality of it, right? So these guys saying, hey, we need to start to hold 10 to 40% of their portfolio in Bitcoin. Well, look at this. He issued a call to hold anywhere of all this. He heads Digital Asset Council for Financial Advisors, and he's been saying for some time that the traditional 60-40 portfolio of stocks and bonds is outdated because people are living too long for it to work. Now he says that crypto like Bitcoin have uncorrelated returns that also need to factor an even greater extent in portfolio of future alongside much higher equity holdings for later in life. So he's been saying all this and really just kind of hammering it here by telling all of us that these portfolios, you can't just be going 60-40 in bonds. People are going to be living to 100. You're going to be working until your 80s at this point in time. There's not going to be enough Bitcoin for you guys to, or, stocks or whatever are not going to go up as much as you possibly need for you to retire. And so you need a new plan. And that new plan is Bitcoin. And these billionaires are starting to really see this, right? We got Chamath lining out the math saying that, hey, Bitcoin could be going to 1.14 million this cycle. Tim Draper literally said Bitcoin is going to infinity soon. Then we had, the Binance CEO saying that rich people are buying Bitcoin like never seen before. The Winklevoss twins getting in on all of this. I mean, how many more billionaires do we need giving us more bullish news throughout this cycle? And the reality is these guys talk to each other, right? So they see what is going on. Steve Cohen, for example, right? We already said about him, how he has $36 billion of assets under management. He owns one of the biggest MLB teams in the world in the New York Mets. And he's a very influential figure with all of this. And what are these guys seeing? Well, they're seeing the acceleration of Bitcoin adoption by corporations, right? Because how do majority of these guys own their wealth? What do they have? Well, majority of these guys, right? Billionaires are typically owned in a diverse range of assets with a significant holding in business and in real estate, but majority of them have built their wealth through success of companies they founded or significantly contributed to. Well, what are we seeing right now? Well, we're seeing this wave of Bitcoin treasury adoption. So these guys are looking at, how these corporations are being managed, their balance sheets. They're seeing how many publicly traded companies now have Bitcoin on their balance sheet, and they're seeing this number increase. I'm pretty sure last time I checked this number was at 133. Now we have 140 publicly traded companies holding Bitcoin on the balance sheet, and that number just keeps on increasing. So these billionaires who literally built their entire net worth through building companies and have that experience are now seeing all of these other companies come on and put Bitcoin on the balance sheet. So they think about how these balance sheets need to be run. They think about just like personal finances, how these things need to come on. And they're seeing Bitcoin as the true asset to not lose all of their, purchasing power for their company, how they're building all of this wealth. So these guys are extremely important to start to see here coming through. And I think that that's going to accelerate over time. So these price predictions, although they are nice, I think this is what they're really looking at. They're looking at this, and then they're looking at this right here, where it's the overall amount of Bitcoin on exchanges. You guys who have been coming to all of this know that I love to show this chart, the Bitcoin on exchanges chart, where we're starting to see Bitcoin rapidly get taken off an exchange. And it looks like right now we have 2.05 million coins left on exchange. And if you look at what I was looking at earlier, this was the breakdown that ChatGPT gave me, right? They had an estimated 2.5 million. So nearly 500,000 coins are already starting to take it down or take it off an exchange. So these things are accelerating, More and more corporations are starting to buy Bitcoin. I mean, we've even seen Anthony Pompliano start a crypto venture where it's just strictly just a Bitcoin holding company, where he purchased or announced the purchase of over nearly 4,000 Bitcoin after announcing a $1 billion plan to go public later this year. He announced that they were buying $386 million. And he said that with all of this, the investment is now worth just shy of 400 million, and that it's rapidly accelerating. It happened within 1 day of announcing that, and over $750 million of a fundraise. Because you know why? When they're starting to do things like this, when they announce, hey, we're going to be buying Bitcoin, it seems like all of these corporations, they're essentially just throwing money at them, right? These guys are just throwing absolute money at these guys saying, hey, you know what? This would be something that is good and viable for this going forward. So I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see more corporations start to do this because, hey, you know what? We're seeing MSTR, we're seeing all of these other things, but they're saying the 60-40 stock pond allocation is dead. Corporations are starting to do it. But I am a true proponent of self-custody. So you guys need to be hitting that subscribe button with the bell notification so you know when I'm going live, because I'm about to give you guys free sats, and I do this literally every single live stream. So go to the bitcoinwell.com/greencandle. If you haven't already signed up, you need to sign up here today, because as soon as you sign up, you will get one play for the wishing well. The second you buy Bitcoin, you will get another chance. So you'll get 2 chances to win up to 1 million sats. And then from there, what do we give you? Make sure you guys are getting those lightning wallets ready, because boom, 545 sats straight to your dome piece. You guys always are getting free sats. All you got to do is come to the Green Candle live streams. And the reality is, is that if you miss this, you guys can come back to the next one, or you could go keep buying your Bitcoin, stacking it straight to cold storage. You can go to bitcoinwell.com/green candle. And then if you got 50K smackers, one, you should send me some sats. But two, scroll on down here, and the Bitcoin Well Infinite is a place for you. If this self-custody stuff sounds very daunting to you, you could go to thebitcoinway.com/green candle. See this ugly mug here where I am dressed like a funeral director because I am just here for the death of fiat, guys. But these guys will help you with cold storage, running a node, literally doing anything you want. Freedom tech, privacy aspects of it. They will help you get your digital life in order. So you can go on there, thebitcoinway.com/green candle, book a free 30-minute consultation and sign up today because they can help you literally do anything related to Bitcoin and these Bitcoin services. Because what do we got here? What are we looking at? We're looking at Bitcoin sitting at 107,000 here. So TradingView is loving to throw it up some ads for me, but we got Bitcoin sitting at 107,000. And McLovin's saying that I feel like we discovered a hidden gold mine in cyberspace and the rest of the world is oblivious. And I agree with you. You guys, we got some Bitcoiners in the chat. BTC Moon Guy. We got Moriak 9578. I agree with you. 40% allocation is a rookie number. But as McLovin is saying, 5% allocation would be massive. 10 to 40 would be absolutely wild. And I agree because right now BlackRock is just suggesting like, a 1 to 2%. These major guys are suggesting a 1 to 2%. I heard Matthew Siegel from Van Eck in an earlier interview essentially say that these guys are just waiting, right? They're doing the wait and see approach. They're looking at this and saying, you know what, we need the volatility to go down. So as that number goes up, the market cap goes up, maybe we'll be able to do a 10 to 20%. But man, saying 10 to 40% is crazy. So I think that, when we see Tim Draper and these guys say it's going to infinity and beyond, this is where we'll start to see some more people get interested in Bitcoin, right? When these hedge fund managers like Steve Cohen, like Ken Griffin, it's like the more and more touch points that we get, right? There are going to be more people coming in. Rick Edelman saying this in his Truth About Crypto said as low as 1% allocation was reasonable, but a lot has changed. This week, he said financial advisors should be recommending anywhere from 10 to 40%. And hey, Chamath is showing the math here. Based on previous cycles, we could be looking at Bitcoin tripling here very soon, getting up to 362,000. We could be looking getting up to 500,000 here by the end of 18 months. And that's in literally 3 months where Chamath is saying that. So these things could happen very, very quickly. And I wouldn't be surprised if they do, because Bitcoin, as many of you guys know here in the chat, it's really just the money is made within 10 trading days, right? It's not exactly like something where it's, a bunch of people starting to come in and all this and that. No, not so fast, my friend. It's really just 90 or 10% of the 10 days, out of the entire year that Bitcoin makes most of its money or most of its return. So be sure you guys are smoking that like button, hitting that subscribe button, telling a friend to tell a friend. And thank you guys all for coming up and blowing up this chat. Hit that bell notification so you guys know where I'm going live. And I'll catch you guys all at the next one.